Hey everybody, welcome to Linuxcast. I'm your host, Matt.
Well, Nate.
I'm Drew. Redo.
No, we're living with that. It's going to be good. All right. All right, so hello, welcome to the Linuxcast. We didn't really go anywhere. We did a show last week. If you tuned in live, it was an atrocious live stream, and not because we were bad, but because my internet was the shittiest thing on this side of Shit Mountain. So we're hoping that is better. I've had the ISP come out. He charged me $60 to pull a splitter off the line, which didn't fix the problem, by the way. I now replaced the modem and the router, by the way. So I'm like $300 deep into this nonsense. So hopefully things are good. I have had periods over the last couple of days since the new modem went up where it has been iffy, but it doesn't seem to last as long as it did. So knock on some wood here. We're hoping that Matt's internet is good and we can stream. But we're going to carry on whether it does or not. So we have a really good topic. We're going to talk about the hardest things we've ever done on Linux tonight. That's our main topic. But before we do, we're going to go around the horn and just discuss what we've been up to. So Drew, what you been up to this week or since we talked about this last?
Yeah, besides working, I've actually completed my jobs for the month, and we're midway through March. So excellent. Anyway, I have done some self-hosting kind of stuff for the Linuxcast and other things, and those have been some really cool, like mental exercises, if you will. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way it has turned out. So
let me ask you this question: your experience with Forjo and your experience with Git, how would you compare those two?
They're pretty close when it comes right down to it. I think that I would opt for Forjo. Yeah, I think I would opt for Forjo. There was no, and one of the reasons why, let's talk about it later. I think I'll use actually Forjo as maybe one of my,
all right, cool,
one of my nuggies. So,
all right,
yeah.
What about you, Nate? What have you been up to?
I actually have been working on a business model plan for my business and fixing to release it. I've got full approval, so hopefully that will give me a more steady income and be able to buy and keep up with Matt over here on all the fancy stuff like this stupid pen that I don't need.
I still, it's not my fault, man. Not my fault. By the way, I have another one in my Amazon cart.
I have 4 of them sitting in my Amazon cart. I haven't hit purchase yet, but yeah,
trying to be a good boy, but it's very tempting because it's a little bit longer barrel. Oh man! All right.
My wife came up this past week and we were talking about something. She's like, I really like this pen. It was a Bic. She took it with her.
Okay.
She's like, forget you, man.
Looking all over for his pen.
Yeah.
So in other words, what Drew's saying is he can't have I
can't have nice things.
His wife would steal them. Okay. All right. So I have been doing multiple things. So I followed Drew into installing Forjo. It's all his fault. And it was pretty good. And then I got into theming it because, of course I did.
Because you're Matt.
I mean, I had to have some themes, man. I have 6 of them so far, so it's good. Anyways, but the big thing that I did is, so I use a Mastodon client called Phampy, Phampy, and it has multiple different layouts. The one that I use is kind of like TweetDeck, but you can do a whole bunch of stuff, but it only supports Mastodon. So what I did was I forked it, and I've spent the last week getting it to work with Blue Sky as well. And it's been an interesting experience. So I obviously have quite a bit of it has been say, hey, Claude, I don't know how to do this. Show me how. But getting everything kind of meshed in together, because normally what I'm doing is creating my own stuff, and I can kind of, it's, like building blocks, and I understand where everything goes. But this is taking someone else's code and trying to figure out how to kind of intersperse the new things with it. It's been an interesting experience. I'm not sure I've done a very good job, but I have it working. So it was fun. I'm sure that there are a million bugs. I'm going to put it into production in the next couple of days just for myself to see if I can kind of use it long term to see what pops up. Because I'm sure there's some things where I'm just like I pull on a call that, that's kind of interconnected between the 2 accounts or whatever, and end up sending, data to two different streams or what, So we'll see. But that was kind of fun. It seems like there was something else that I did this week, but I don't really remember what it was. Oh, I've been working on this my Sonic music player a little bit too. I added this functionality where I can press a leader key and then the letter of the alphabet that I want to jump to, and it will jump to that letter in like the albums or the artists. That saved a lot of time because otherwise I just have to scroll through like a million artists. So that was cool. All right. So that's what I've been doing. That's what we've been doing. But now we're going to jump into our main topic. So there are certain things that you do that after you've done them, you felt really proud to have accomplished them. So, whether it's, installing something on your home lab or fixing a bug on your distro that you're using so that you don't have to distro hop, whatever it is, it was really hard. And by the time you finished it and you've successfully made your way through the problem or the whatever you've done, you feel really proud. So what we want to do today is talk about some of the hardest things we've done on Linux or open source software, whatever it is. So I'm going to kind of pull a lot of the stuff from the stuff that you talked about, Drew, but just kind of first in general, if you had to say the hardest thing, like the number one thing at the top that you've ever done, what would it be? So Drew, you go ahead and go first.
So I think if I had to look back and go over this long journey that is Linux in my life, it's knowing where to start. That's the first thing that comes to mind, though, because when you first start, you distro hop. And what triggers that? And then do you have regrets? Did you waste years on the wrong distro? Did you hop because you had opinionated desktop environments, whether you're a GNOME purist or a KDE, what do you call it? A maximalist. As a window manager user, does this distro even have window managers kind of like pre-installed and ready to go for you? And so that's really where my thought was at the beginning of this question. Matt said, what's the hardest thing you've done? I don't know, because there's lots of different kind of like avenues that you can go down into. But the first one is that paralysis of choice branch that we could probably explore. And so knowing where you start and distro hopping and the amount of time and the time suck that comes with that seems to be where I started. I went right into, like, for me personally, I went right into Mint. I went into Manjaro. I went to Arch directly, and then, and then a few other things, Arco, and finally ended up with Debian as kind of like my forever home.
Nate, what about you? If you had to name like the number one hardest thing you've ever done on Linux, what would it be?
So I actually split mine out into like one beginner and a couple intermediates, and then one as I am now. I'm not going to call myself an expert, but whatever. But as a beginner, probably the first thing was actually figuring out how to install Linux. When I borrowed the CD from the school library magazine, which they didn't get back. But anyways, it had Ubuntu, I think it was like 606. Dapper Drake was the name of it. And yeah, to actually installing Linux for the first time, that was a pain to me. And it took me like a couple tries before I got it. And I felt so accomplished when I finally installed it. Just to realize that the audio situation was not great. So I had to figure out how to work some of the audio problems that I was having. And that took probably another month, to be honest. After that, well, I'll leave the rest of it for the intermediate section.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit more specific, I think. So I think the first thing that I can really remember after switching to Linux full time that I was like, this is really hard. But once I was done through, I was really proud. And that was installing and patching DWM for the first time. Because I had a fairly, I'm going to sound like super elitist, right off the bat. I had a pretty easy time switching to Linux. There were no I wasn't super reliant on Adobe or any of that stuff. I was perfectly happy with my app situation. I didn't have really esoteric hardware or anything like that. So all my distro hopping was because I wanted to distro hop. It was never like I have to distro hop because it's not working. So can't really say that stuff was hard. It was just more whatever. But when I decided I was going to get into window managers and I wanted to go to DWM, that's when I started this was an effort because I had no experience with C whatsoever. My only experience with coding before that was C++ back in college. And that had been probably 12 years before then at that point. It was 2004. So I installed and built. Actually, I don't quote me on it, but it feels like it was probably the first package that I ever built from source was DWM, and just the kind of the feeling of being able to run through that to begin with, and having it complete, and then doing the first patch, and then having another patch is one of those things where there's a reason why to this day I still enjoy patching DWM, because it brings up that feeling that I had then, that this is something that I can do. I don't it's an accomplishment that I have, and it just kind of feels good at the end. But I don't know that qualifies for like a lot of people, like in terms of just beginning to switch to Linux. But I think that window managers in general kind of give you that feeling because you build things up from the ground up. Like it doesn't need to be DWM, but like if you're an i3 or Xmonad or Hyperland or whatever, you get this blank screen, BSPWM, just black screen, and then you get your config file, and piece by piece you piece it together, and it's maybe it's not super hard because you can follow on the tails of people who've done it before you, but along the way you have this real sense of accomplishment that you've done something, you've built something from the ground up. I think actually another one is that first time, like when I first installed Arch Linux, there wasn't an Arch install script, right? You get on YouTube, you find Luke Smith's tutorial, because everybody follows that. It's just the one that you follow, and at least back then it was. And she guides you through installing Arch Linux from vanilla from scratch, and at the end of it, you're like, wow, I did something. There's a reason why I used Arch Linux, by the way, back then, right? So
did you think that, though? I mean, I know that you said you never really minded like distro hopping, but would you say that there was times where you wasted time, whether it be hours or days or weeks or even months or years, on a distro that you had like this was a complete waste of time? And I can tell you from my perspective that being on, and I hate to say if there's people in the chat that are Manjaro users, but I feel like the time that I spent on Manjaro was a complete waste of time. That's just a fact. That's just my own personal like experience with that. But I would be curious if you guys felt like, yeah, that was that was either months or years or what have you that I just can't get back.
Nate?
Complete waste of time? Yes. Should you install it? Yes. Should you immediately delete it? Yes. The fact of the matter is, Manjaro is one of those distros that you don't really learn Linux in a sense. Yes, you learn how to install Linux, but you don't actually learn Arch. It tries to baby you with that. And I guess one of the things I respect about CachyOS is they kind of baby you, but they also don't either. Like, it's still your choice to do certain things and add certain packages. So,
was there something else though besides that you think, oh man, that was a waste of time?
Matt's gonna hate me so bad.
OpenSUSE.
It was OpenSUSE because I had NVIDIA. I'm sorry, I had NVIDIA cards. It's all I had at the time, and yeah, it was a complete waste of.
I can't defend because the NVIDIA on OpenSUSE is horrible. They just don't want to support it at all. All right, for me, I think I'm going to go a little bit probably in a different direction than what you think, Drew. But I think for me, the biggest waste of time that I found was getting very attached to desktop environments, because I spent a long time before I got into window managers trying to find the perfect desktop environment, and I tried them all. I tried, GNOME, KDE, Budgie, Mate, all of them. And I would constantly hop between them. I mean, like sometimes 3 or 4 times a day, because there was just this one little thing that didn't work, or this one little thing that didn't work the way that I wanted it to, whatever, right? And I spent probably a good 2 years doing that before I hopped into i3 for the first time. Now, eventually I did the exact same thing with window managers. But the thing about window managers is that I eventually learned was that I'm going to make all of them look exactly the same anyways. So it doesn't really matter which one that I use, as long as things are working. So like this last time I left Qtile because I could not get screen tearing to work. I'm positive it's a NixOS problem, because on every other on all the real distros, it's easy to fix. On this one, not so much. So that's the reason why I hopped this time. But I've found myself switching less and less, simply because I'm going to make them all look the same no matter what. Now, granted, I say that after switching to Plasma today for no apparent reason. So maybe I'm not as reformed as I thought I was.
I thought, though, I mean, back, like I said, I would look at, my Google search was best distro for XFCE, for example. You know, it's like, okay, well, let me try that one, because I wanted to use XFCE, or I wanted to use GNOME, or I wanted to use Cinnamon. So I was actually more, to your point, Matt, I was a little bit more like interested in the desktop initially, and I wanted to use something that really provided a really good user experience for that specific desktop. So did I go to Linux Mint because of Cinnamon? Yes. Not because of the simplicity, because maybe the desktop looked the way I thought at least I could transition to it. Same thing. I looked at XFCE, and Manjaro had really like a lot of positive things about Manjaro XFCE at the time. So that is one of the reasons why I went in that direction, and so on. So I see where your point is, as far as like the opinionated part of these distro maintainers and the choices that they make with the desktop environment that they're either flagshipping or they're just shipping. So
it took me a long time to divorce the idea that in order to use KDE, for example, you had to use a distro that came with KDE, right? So if I wanted to use KDE on Ubuntu, I found myself distro hopping from Ubuntu to Kubuntu, right? Like I mean, now I look at it like that's the stupidest thing ever. You could just install KDE Plasma, you can do that, right? But I was such a noob that I didn't realize that you could do that. So I was one of the things that I'm like, sometimes I was distro hopping every day. Sometimes, you know, it wasn't really that often, frequently, but sometimes. A lot of my distro hopping was prodded by wanting to find or use a different desktop environment and not realizing that I could just find myself a distro, install that desktop environment on it, and be happy no matter what. Eventually I got there, but it took a while to intrude into my thick brain to figure that out. Because when my distro hopping started to slow down, it was when I started realizing that I can use whatever I want basically wherever I am.
I think the reason why I think I answered the question the way I did was, as you've said many times, decisions are hard, man. Making decisions are really hard. And then you don't know, man, was that the right one? So you kind of backtrack and you go, I don't know. Was that the right one? And then it's like this rabbit hole thing. It just like steamrolls at that point.
Nate, when you picked Pop! OS, you popped it.
You pickle popped it.
when you popped that particular when you picked that distro, you picked it because of because of shut up. You picked it because of NVIDIA, right? Or did you have other reasons?
Sort of, yes, but at the same time, like, you could get NVIDIA working on Arch. It was just one of those things that I kept coming back to it because I actually liked it. And the more that I used it over and over again, and I kept coming back to it, I was like, okay, obviously I like this distro and I just need to stick with it. And when I did, I realized I was much happier. And then that started the craze of buying other hardware to satisfy my itch to hop on distros. And it still hasn't quit yet. So.
Yeah, I get it. Do you think that your attachment to Pop! OS was more of a cosmic thing, even though, I mean, like Cosmic GNOME back then or whatever, or more of a distro specific thing?
I think it was a distro specific thing. In particular, NVIDIA drivers had a lot to do with it because back then, man, they just worked so much better than a lot of other distros. Now with the open drivers, it's not really the case. It's just kind of, they kind of all use the same kind of thing. But Pop! OS did have a little bit of extra, I guess I would say, sauce behind some of their drivers, and it just made things work easier. And one of the biggest things, so back then I had a Intel laptop that had a NVIDIA, I think it was a 960 or something like that, when I finally decided to switch over. And the hibernation graphics, it was the only Linux distro that I could actually truly get like 6 hours of battery life between it, determining, okay, I'm going to use Intel graphics right now. Oh, I need to switch to NVIDIA graphics. That was the best Linux distro I've used that can do hybrid graphics in that sense. And so, yeah, it was part of it. Mostly the drivers. I think it was the drivers mostly that made me settle with Pop! OS because it was just so easy. But other than that, I realized I kind of like it. So,
yeah, okay, all right. So, if you guys were to look at like a specific like software thing that you've done that was super duper hard that you found yourself completing and were really proud of, what would that be? Like a specific thing, like, whatever happens to be. Drew?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with some of the self-hosted pieces of software. I think that most of the time when you install something directly out of the Debian like packages, you're pretty set when it comes to like stability. So it would have to be something that I installed or created. And that, I think that some of the challenging parts, at least recently, have been how to host Olama in combination with OpenRouter. It's not hard, but it kind of changes constantly with the number and the changes of what models are available. So those things have been really stinking challenging and probably more time consuming than I'm willing to give to that particular self-hosting. I don't need to. I guess my point is, do I really need to self-host those models? And the answer is probably not. So yeah, I'm just like, I'm not saying that it was a complete waste of time because it was interesting, I guess, but is it something that I feel a little bit I don't know. I don't feel like I did anything that I'm going to be used like long term. So it was just a kind of a waste.
Nate, what about you? You have a software victory that you found that was really hard, but once you got to the end of it, you were proud or either disappointed that you didn't get through it or whatever?
Installed my first Docker container. For some reason, I could not understand it whatsoever. I didn't understand what the concept was behind it, why I even needed to try it. But once I finally got it working in Proxmox, that was probably like the best 4 hours of my life until it broke again. But yeah, I got it working.
What Docker container was it? You remember?
Image.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, probably not the best baby's first Docker container to try.
No, but when I got it working, it worked amazing, and I realized I've done some setting wrongs, and I tried to change it, and it broke. So.
It's still a horrendous application. You do this to this day. Like it's went stable, but like they just recently pushed, or at least it seems to have, they pushed out something with a wrong dependency or whatever, and I couldn't get it to build again. And just on the Docker topic, just a little bit, if you install Docker the way that they want you to install it, like through, like you curl the repo and add the keys and all that stuff, there's nowhere in that documentation that tells you to ensure that the Docker daemon is running. Now, apt, if you're installing it on Ubuntu or Debian, whatever, apt should start the service for you. But if you're not on Debian or Ubuntu, like you're on Fedora or something like that, it may not start the service for you. Which means if you're like my dumbass, you can sit there trying for a long time to get a Docker container actually working and then realizing And like my first time, I had no clue that Docker daemon was even a thing. And similar to Linus, I don't read the output of commands. I mean, that's for other people. So if I'd read the command, it probably would have told me that Docker daemon needed to be running, but I didn't do that. So I was like, why isn't this working? So I'd go do this thing. And it took me a while to figure out that I needed that service to start running. So the documentation there was kind of crap. All right. So for me, the hardest thing I've ever done and been successful at on Linux or FOSS or whatever is that stupid Discord bridge that I set up a few weeks ago.
Oh.
To this day, it'll probably hold that crown forever. Like I don't foresee myself ever having anything that will compete with it. Both of the components of that run in a Docker container. So it wasn't that hard to like get the service up and running. You had to do some things with stupid DNS. DNS is horrible. Everybody knows that it's horrible. So I had to do some DNS stupid things, like add a well-known file to my website to make sure that it could take care of some CORS errors that were popping up, all this stuff, right? None of that was really that hard. But then once I actually got it up and running, there was these stupid things that you have to do in order to get like avatars to sync between Discord and Mastodon, or get the emojis to synchronize sometimes between Discord back to Mastodon. Or maybe it's the other way around. I don't even remember. It's Discord back to Mastodon. Discord back to Matrix, sorry. All these things. And most of that stuff has to be done directly in the MySQL database. And I've never touched MySQL outside of just like some vagary stuff, right? Like just here or there, whatever. I never actually delved deep and done it felt like I was doing Windows register edits is what it felt like I was doing. And I had to do the stuff for the avatars, for the emojis, and had to make sure that when new users join the Matrix, it basically registered with the database, and that required a whole bunch of extra stuff. It took forever, and I don't know that I actually learned all that much about like random MySQL stuff, but my first exposure to it was like, yeah, I'm not sure I ever want to do that again. So that's
I've got a question for you guys in the chat as well. Have you ever rejected a tool because you thought to yourself, man, that's just too simple? Because it kind of feels beneath me a little bit. Because there's a lot of overachievers that I'm looking at in the chat and in the mirror as well, where it's like, wow, I really could have done something incredibly simple and I made this incredibly hard. I've never done, I've never like compiled my own kernel or anything like that. Do I feel bad about that? No, I don't feel bad about that 1 second. But I've often given Matt shit about i3. And I have to basically look in the mirror and go, you know what? I rejected that tool because it was maybe too simple. And is that a bad thing? No, it's really good piece of stinking software. It's a really good window manager. And I've done it a disservice by kind of like rejecting it. And that's not something that I'm proud of. The other thing is I feel like with note taking, it's like, oh, I'm just going to do something incredibly simple, like write down on a piece of paper. It's like, no, I should use Obsidian because it's like the 900-pound elephant that I need to like tame in order to get maximum note taking and stuff. It's like, it's garbage.
Or let's see if this sounds familiar. Maybe you should code your own note-taking application and call it Butternotes.
Yeah, see, exactly that. Exactly that. Was that like 6 months of my life that I can't get back? Yes. Yes.
I personally have never overcomplicated anything ever in my life.
See, I was hoping you would fess up to this, man. There's just no.
I never went through and decided I was going to, from scratch, rewrite all of my Emacs config just because I wanted it to do Markdown and Vim, despite the fact that packages actually exist for that and stuff. Like I could just use a use package for that and it would just do it. No, I had to do it on my own. So I had to learn Lisp in order to do it. So my Emacs config is probably 30,000 lines long. It's probably not that long, but it's at least 20 files full of stuff that's sourced into the main config file. And the vast majority of that could have been just whittled down to like 10 packages or so that already exist. But I did that. So what about you, Nate? You ever overcomplicated anything in your entire life?
Absolutely not.
See? Perfect.
No,
That dude's a stinking liar.
I totally didn't buy, my own firewall and create my own firewall and buy new routers so I can practice on setting up different applications on different networks. Totally didn't do any of that. I also didn't do, it's like what, MPV or whatever this stupid video player works. It works. I immediately get rid of it and install VLC. It just,
Have you adopted anything like beginner-ish lately? I guess maybe I'm trying to think for myself. Like, it's like, why didn't I just do something simple like this to begin with? I'm trying to think.
I have one maybe. I don't know if it's beginner-ish though. I kind of adopted Jellyfin, which I kind of feel like it's a little bit beginnerish, but I always went to pay the subscription and Plex Soul thing, and I guess it's the only one I really kind of went. Maybe Notesnook. I don't know if Notesnook would be considered kind of beginner.
I don't think so, but yeah, I see your point. You could use something a lot more robust. Yeah.
No, not for me. No, yeah. I reject anything that's too simple. Just on principle. I want to. All right, so I used Last.fm for a while, like decades ago, right? And then recently, like last year, I decided I was going to pick up Last.fm again and have it track my music thing. And that was much too simple, so I decided I was going to I didn't decide I was going to do it myself, but I've thought about it. But there's Listen Brains, which is the open source, like more self-hostery kind of stuff. So I'm doing Listen Brains, and that was a whole thing. And then I decided I was going to redo the entire music page in my blog. So I did that.
No, Matt, you're lying. There is one thing we've all adopted that is extremely simple. It just hit me.
Okay. What is it?
Local send.
I don't use local send.
You literally the one that did the Nugget, and that's the reason why I installed it.
I don't use it anymore. No.
Yeah.
What was that tool? We used Warpinator. We used Warpinator for a little while. That is a noob friendly tool that I could recommend. That's actually pretty good. I don't use it because in traditional Drew fashion, he set up an SFTP server for us. But yeah, Warpinator was which actually I think is just a front end for local send. Now that I think about it, so it's just
I got one. I wrote like a backup script where I could just have easily like done some rsync with some flags, and that would have been all that was required. Those stupid things. Like, oh man, let me write a 60 line bash script that I can do in one line with rsync and flags. Yeah, that was intelligent.
So I had a script. So I have a page on my website or on the linuxcast.org that basically shows all of the previous episodes, all the way from back to season 1, right? And previously, the only way I could do that was you have to create the podcast page, and then you had to basically put in the link inside of like a markdown page in order to do it. But that entailed going to YouTube, then going to Fireside where we host the audio, grabbing those links, putting them in a document, making sure it was all built out with the exact same template, make sure the front matter was all stuff. So I created a script that did just that part fine. It was called episode.md for some reason. And that didn't, it worked fine. It asked me a series of questions. It put everything where it needed to go with a long and complicated thing of regex and sed and awk and stuff, right? That wasn't good enough. So I spent a while creating a script that will take a YouTube RSS feed of a playlist for the season that we're in, automate everything, including creating the markdown file for that specific episode, putting everything where it needs to go, putting the embed for the YouTube video, putting the embed for the Fireside player, putting the show notes in there in proper markdown where it needs to go, and then making sure the link is in the old podcast.md file. So it does all of them all exactly the same. Now, if I had been smart, I would have done it in Python, because Python has some really cool things for interacting with APIs and stuff, but I decided to do it in Bash just to prove that I could. That is a monstrosity of a shell script. I don't even think that I've put it up on GitHub. I don't want anybody to see it, because it works, but it's like, you guys ever like wrote something that you just know that it's one stiff breeze away from falling over and making your computer set itself on fire? I think that's what this is.
I have no idea what you're talking about. No.
It's what this feels like. So yeah, my scripts folder is actually kind of full of those things. Also, don't just pro tip, just on the subject of scripts, don't pull my scripts folder down, because about half of those are unfinished, and you run one of those, it's probably going to RMRF your entire home directory.
Oh, yeah, that's
so don't touch it. It's
good
fine.
advice.
There's nothing in there that's actually good, anyways. Just avoid it. So,
Well, here's my script folder.
He doesn't even have it actually on hard drive. He completely like silos it apart.
Mhm.
So every time you need to run a script, you have to load in a floppy disk.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I have to take this hat off. It can no longer apply to me. I can't be a Linux. I'm apparently not that much of a Linux nerd. That's too hardcore for me. I'd never be able to do it. It's too much. Actually, I watched a YouTube video. This is totally off topic. I watched a YouTube video of a guy building a Linux distro that was built to run off a floppy disk. That was fun to watch.
So I got two questions then, Matt, because you talked about like your music stuff a couple of times already. So would you say that your like the amount of time and effort that you put into Jellyfin at one point and Plexamp and a few other things, and even your books that you don't, I don't know, do you still use like a book, like self-hosting thing? And is it the one that you've kind of like had over a long period of time? Or?
Oh no, I switched.
Okay.
No.
And when do you like decide, you know what, it's just not that good? I've put 25, like man hours into this and it's just not worth it.
So it's actually the same problem, just kind of to take it back to what we talked about earlier with the desktop environments. It's the exact same problem. So I have a Reddit problem, Drew, is what I really truly have, is I get on Reddit r/self-hosted a lot. And people are making really cool things. So I get on there and I'm just browsing around, and I was using Calibre Web Automated for a while. That's the last one before now that I was using. It's basically Calibre but in the browser. It's pretty good. It has a much better interface than Calibre on your desktop has all the features of Calibre, and you can basically access it anywhere. It'll even stream books to you, right? It's really good. But someone created something called Booklore, and it is awesome. It is so good. Now the developer has proven to be a douche monkey of enormous proportions. Like he had some criticism over AI usage, and he decided just to kick the entire Discord server offline, and total victim complex. But the application itself is actually pretty good, and I don't actually think that they vibe coded that at all, mostly because it's just way too complex. If you've ever tried to vibe code something that freaking complex, you just know it's going to be buggy all over the place. Booklore is not really like that, but it is. I mean, if you want to call an application sexy, it looks sexy. It's great. So yeah, that's what I moved on to Booklore. But am I going to stay there? Because I've tried Stump in the last week. That really didn't catch my fancy. I tried Kavita again. Kavita is really more for manga and anime and stuff. My problem is I'm just never happy with what I have, despite the fact that it's perfectly fine. I don't actually even really use Booklore all that much, other than just to kind of browse books, because I don't use Kindle anymore. I use SyncThing to basically just synchronize the folder. So I don't need the book send functionality that is really the reason why I ever used it. But, and still the things. In terms of the music thing, I've pretty much settled in on that. Navidrum and Subsonic is just really good. There's nothing really out there that does music as well as Subsonic does, and Navidrum is just it's on top of it, right? And it's just the best thing I've ever found.
That's awesome. I mean, the fact that you like said, you know what, I'm not going to pay for it, and then you built your own kind of infrastructure right there. So that's saying something.
It wasn't really paying for it wasn't the. I hate when people raise prices. Why is everything getting so expensive, man? I just I could. It's the reason why I don't do Netflix. Netflix has raised their price like 6 times in like the last 2 years. It's nuts. I just can't do it anymore. So that was the raising prices part. I just couldn't do it. Either you guys actually self-host your music at all? You're still on Tidal, right?
Nate, are you doing it or
100% Jellyfin?
That's good. Yeah, I don't. I use Tidal. I use a family plan for Tidal.
Have you ever thought about doing the self-hosting thing?
Yeah, in one ear, out the other. Yeah, like for a second or two. I will say that there's been times, like even with the stuff we have for the Linux cast, it's like we had that Nextcloud instance and I spent, I don't even know how long, just like tweaking it and trying to get it to work and stuff like that. And then, and we used it for months. And at the end of that, was it a waste of, time? Absolutely. It was a waste. It was overblown for what we needed. It was cool, but man, do I have regrets even like doing that or like, trying that? And are we much happier now with our current kind of like setup,
And all this technology that we use now is like from the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we talked about simple against like complex, and what SFTP. How long has that been around?
Probably older than you are.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was mean.
I appreciate that. Actually, that's actually a compliment.
It's
right?
been around for a long time, is what I'm saying. It's very well seasoned compared to Nextcloud, which is new and falls over on its face all the freaking time.
Yeah.
All right. So let me go back to Drew's notes here. So do you guys find yourself often exploring, this kind of tails off on what we were just talking about actually, do you find yourself exploring new things often? Like are you like me? I mean, you guys probably aren't on Reddit all that much like I am, where you find new things to self-host, but do you guys often find yourself finding new apps to play around with, or are you kind of set with your tech stack as the way it is? Drew?
I look all the time. And when I look all the time, I'm usually looking at self-hosted kind of applications. And generally I look at TrueNAS scale for those, for their catalog and just say, hey, because it's really, really easy just to add something and then remove it if you just like, yeah, that sucks. And so, yeah, I look at it all the time. Is it, am I happy with, do I actually leave it on there? No, not very often, when I was like, oh, let me look at, because you use Homer. Is that right, Matt? Or something like Homer for your Flame?
I built my own. Actually.
Oh, okay.
I named it Homepage.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's built in TypeScript and React.
Nice.
It is the spaghettiest of codes, though, but it has a ton of widgets. I'm very happy.
Yeah, I looked at something like that. It was called Flame.
Yeah, I've used it.
Okay, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I've got to invest time in actually like building this out from forget that. It's just too much work. And so, no, yeah. So, and at the end of the day, I have my fresh RSS. I have Linked Warden, I have Olama, and maybe a couple other things, and that is all. Oh, other than like self-hosted things, like I self-host my own like static HTML page and things like that, and I kind of forget about that. But yeah.
Let me ask you this, Drew: is there anything about this, kind of to move away from the self-hosted stuff, but is there anything about Debian that pisses you off that just kind of wiggles the distro hopping gland in your brain. Just anything, even little, like you're not going to pull the trigger because everything else is fine. But if there's just like one little thing that was ever going to get you to go try something else, is there something that exists?
No. And yeah, I want to say yes, but no, not really. And because I have like built out certain things that satisfy that, it's like, oh, well, I don't want to use an app image for Zen browser, so I'll build a deb package. Or I want Ghosty as a terminal option, so I'll build that deb package, and so on and so forth. So I've kind of gotten into this habit of adding things that may be easier if I was on a different distro, and that is cool. But then there are things like, I on my Codeberg, I have 9 window managers in their configs and doing the install for that. And the fact that I have that many is actually concerning me, because like, will I ever use Awesome? I think I put Awesome in there simply for Nate. I think it was like, well, Nate might want Awesome, so I'll make that package. And then like Matt might want i3, so I'll make that at some point. And there, I don't OpenBox. Will I use OpenBox in the future? No, I won't. I don't know. It's one of those things where, yeah, Debian has the things that I need. And if I don't have the things, I can just build it myself and then like be happy as a clam. So,
okay. So Nate, I have 2 questions then for you. The same 2 I asked you. First, do you still find yourself exploring a whole bunch of new distros, apps, that sort of things? And if you lie to me, I'll know you're a liar. So, because I know your hardware habits. And also, is there anything about Pop! OS that would make you, try something else?
As far as trying stuff all the time, absolutely. That's the reason why I do have multiple systems. It's just to mess around with different things and try different things and try different setups and different whatever. So yes, I'm not going to lie about that. I do it all the time. There is one thing that gets under my skin with Pop! OS, and it's Cosmic.
Like the new Cosmic.
Yes. Here's the reason why. I understand, well, for one, I understand it's a small development team, but there is things that are just missing that should already be in the stinking desktop environment. And I've seen the release schedule, but like, get some other people to help you or something. Just, there's some daily things that just need to be added, period. And it aggravates me to no end. And when it's not there, then I'm having to find another workaround. And it's good, but it also frustrates me.
Did you use GNOME before Cosmic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I can't believe we're friends. I'm just.
Did you have like a really like carefully curated extension system and so on that allowed you to kind of like did it worked for your workflow like perfectly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in one of these notebooks. I actually have a list of all the extensions that I had going to get it to work, to where it literally didn't even look like basic Cosmic. It didn't even look like GNOME, to be honest. I don't even know what it looks like. It just kind of exists. But yeah,
I've seen
there's some
screenshots
things
of your
with
GNOME. It's nice. Yeah.
But the problem is with Cosmic right now, there's like little simple things. Like, for example, why can't I find any of the other, like I have caffeine on this laptop. It won't go to the taskbar. Why can't I add it? It just doesn't refuse to let me even add it to the taskbar at all. Why? There's the Cosmic files are just terrible. They're horrible. Why they even exist right now? Just use something else until you figure something else out. Like, they're just bad.
You talking about the file manager itself?
Yes.
Okay.
The Cosmic files. Yeah, the manager. It's horrible.
Yeah, I had the same experience. Like, why? I mean, even Nautilus. Like, you just could have used Nautilus for a little. I mean, yes, Nautilus is horrible because fuck Nautilus. But you could have used Nautilus at least it's full featured, right?
Yeah. And on top of that, they just now. When I say just now, it was probably like a couple weeks ago. They just now fixed the Chromium issue, to where when you open YouTube, it does this double full screen nonsense. And I'm like, quit. and they finally fixed it now. But still, it's been how long since they released it, and it's just now fixed. Like, this should have been something that was on day one. But anyways,
do you feel like they should have
being crappy?
Do you feel like they should have just stayed in beta for a little while longer?
Yeah, I honestly do.
Aren't they actually in beta
it out.
though? Still,
They're full release.
No,
Yeah.
I thought Pop OS, their 2604 or something like that. Is that a beta or is that like a full release?
No, they're in full release.
Okay,
They did a
all right.
full release in Cosmic of as far as, was it December something?
Yeah, they went to 1.0 in just like December.
Yeah,
20
but
something.
okay, all right, never mind.
I'm sure they have like a new release of like the distro itself that's in beta that will come out in April, but the actual desktop environment is not in beta anymore. It's
Okay.
full 1.0 release. And I know how much crap I gave you, Nate, about them taking so long, but it feels a little bit ironic now to say, maybe they should have taken a little bit longer. But okay, so this is going to be completely off topic, but I don't care. When they first announced Cosmic, my first reaction was, do we really need another desktop environment? Why are you basically reinventing the wheel on every single piece of a desktop environment when it doesn't need to be done? Like, there was no real good reason to create Cosmic. Just the way that it feels for me. Like, yes, they had major qualms with GNOME. GNOME is an open source project. Fork that motherfucker. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be starting from scratch. Maybe it was just too hard to start from scratch. Maybe they saw it was easier to start from scratch than do a fork, or choose a different desktop environment or whatever. It felt more like it felt very ego. Like we can do this, no problem. Maybe they can over time. I think that it will get really, really good, but I don't see the purpose behind it, like other than to offer them like full total control.
At the time, though, and I'm going back, and this is going to be completely like unfounded recollection here, but there was so much X11 legacy code within the GNOME code base on 2 years ago when they started. I'm wondering if they thought clean piece of paper, let's go. That doesn't mean that GNOME, because GNOME might have quite a lot of just, like I said, superfluous code that's, like you talking about spaghetti code or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the code base looks like at all.
Well, they may have very good technological reasons why they chose to do it the way that they did it. But Linux and open source software has this problem, in general. It's not just Cosmic and whatever, where developers want to do things their way, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just kind of the way that it is. It's enabled by the way open source works. Like if I don't like Ubuntu, I can go create Linux Mint because I want to be able to do it my way. I can base it on Ubuntu, but I can do all these things. I can pull Snap out and do all that stuff, right? And create my own useless little distro. Sorry, but you can do that, and developers do it all the time. Because they don't like the package manager, they don't like the way things are done. But it does feel like sometimes, and Cosmic was one of those times where it just feels like you didn't really have a really good reason, at least a public facing reason why you did it. And even if you were going to do it, like let's say for example, they just created their desktop or whatever, and then just pick and chose some applications that they were going to ship from other things like Nautilus or Thunar or whatever. They could have just done that. It would have been perfectly fine. They did not have to create a brand new file manager, right? That didn't have to be done. There's a million file managers out there. Trust me, I know. I've tried all of them. And if they don't like Thunar, they could do Nemo or Kaha or whatever. Whatever. You still would have had your desktop environment. It just feels like their usage of resources wasn't necessarily the best thing because they've had to focus on basically rebuilding everything because they wanted to do so, which is fine. It's their prerogative. It feels weird to me.
Would the hardest thing you ever do? I mean, since we're trying to be on topic here a little bit, would the hardest thing you ever do? When you are like, and I'm going to ask Nate this question because he is identified as the Pop OS guy. That's just a fact, And would you stay with Pop OS when your identity is tied to that distro Maybe after the point where you're like, God dang, I can't use this anymore. I mean, and that's overstating, okay? But would you ever consider going to a different? Because I know that you've used Debian before. I mean, I know that you've used other OSs before. Would you consider like just saying, you know what, I'm do a video tomorrow and go, yeah, I have stopped using Pop OS. And would that be weird for you? Would that be the hardest thing you will ever do?
Probably, because I mean, I even have a store that sells the hat for Pop OS, by the way. My mouse pad says Pop OS, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it would be extremely hard. Though I have found one distro that if I had to switch, it would be a little easier for me. And, well, it's CashOS. That was the one distro that I was like, oh, I've got latest packages. I can actually use Resolve with the newer NVIDIA drivers. And so, yeah, but I don't know.
The thing is,
I'm so used.
Go ahead. Sorry, Nate.
Well, I was going to say, I'm so used to Pop now. Like, I know the ins and out behind it now. I know everything well, I don't say I know everything, but I know enough to get people to where they can use it. And yeah, it'd be a sad day. It would be a funeral video, to be honest.
See, I can't even ask the same question to Matt because he does 2-year challenges on a distro that he has, and then he'll be on KDE one day and he'll be on Qtile another day. So I can't it's your identity really isn't tied to anything.
So let me tell you a secret, Drew. I've discovered something, and maybe this is pure arrogance on my part, but I'm really good at Linux. I'm really good at Linux. I can use any distro and it will work just fine. Now, there are certain things that, like fucking DaVinci Resolve, but I blame DaVinci Resolve on that, right? Yeah. I got this for you, Nate. For the audio listeners, I just flipped the bird. But in terms of just like basic regular use of Linux, I don't care. I've learned to not care what distro I use. Let's call NixOS a distro for a minute. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I really could not care less which one I use. Do they all have their special ways of doing things? Some of them. The regular real Linux distros, all like Debian and Fedora and Ubuntu and Arch even, basically work all the same to me. They have different package managers in some cases and some syntax that's a little bit different, but other than that, they have the same packages that are available to them. They install basically the same way, and you just use it. It's great. OpenSUSE was a little bit different because of the way that they handled some packages, but even that after a while became same as everything else. NixOS itself is different simply because of the configuration file, but even that has become to the point where it's just... it works. And I can't give credit to the distros because they're all different, supposedly. So it has to be me. I'm just really good at Linux now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so good. I cannot be defined. You cannot put me in a box, guys.
You give me whatever you want. I'll use it and it will be perfectly fine. As long as you don't ask me to install DaVinci Resolve on it, we'll be good.
Okay. LFS with Resolve.
Well, it was fine until you did the with Resolve part, because that my response to that is you first, because I'd be convinced that'd be impossible. I mean, I'd watch that live stream if somebody wanted to do it, but I don't think I'd do it.
Didn't Tony already do that shit?
Well, I watched all 3 hours of him installing Linux from scratch too, by the way. So definitely. And yes, I've actually used Slack. I've used Slackware before too, by the way, and it worked fine. It's old as fuck. It makes Debian look shiny and new. Just the way that it works. But anyways.
Would I stay with Debian because my identity is tied to it?
I mean, it's in your logo, man. That's how. Yeah.
Yes. Would I stay? Yeah. I it would be. Yeah. No. I
You're in the same boat I am.
Huh?
They said you're in the same boat that I am.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not, and do I feel like I couldn't? No, I mean, to Matt's point, I think that I could run pretty much anything. I don't know that I could could I use Arch? Yeah, I could use it if I really wanted to. Could I go to Fedora? Yeah. Do I choose? Yeah, I choose. Am I okay that my identity is a little bit tied to Debian? Nah, I don't care. I mean, because I respect and appreciate what that distro is about and what it does and and the stability of it. Yeah, no, I don't have a problem in being tied to that brand. So no, yeah, I'm good with that. That's fine. That would be weird, wouldn't it? I mean, that would just be weird.
Nate, if Drew ever comes onto the podcast one week and says, I installed Arch on my main machine, we will probably die. Like there is something wrong.
End of days, bro.
There's a meteorite that is coming straight towards the earth, and it's fixing to hit us.
Like either that, or
halfway in the podcast.
It's a pod person, and it's not actually Drew.
Yeah.
Every time Matt does one of these challenges, I think, well, maybe I should do it. No, I'm not going to do that.
We're going to find a bet. We're going to find a bet somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
Where we can bet Drew. And
we did have that distro challenge where we took each other's, and that. I mean, honestly, if we did that again and I took Nick's OS, I'd be down for it for a short period of time, not like long term or anything like that. But
it could be. We should consider it, but on like spare hardware, because each of us have jobs to do.
No, yeah, I can't.
You know what I mean? So it had to be on like everybody just goes out there, gets themselves $100 ThinkPad, and that's what
I'm looking at what I would put it on right over here to my right, and forget it.
We'll have to talk on that because I'd actually it'd be fun to see Drew attempt Nick's OS. It would be fun.
I'd be like,
the NixOS
D-Dubs, hook me up, baby.
No, you can't contact D-Dubs. D-Dubs is off. That'd be cruel and unusual punishment because everyone contacts D-Dubs somewhere along the line. All right. Are there any other hard experiences that you guys would like to talk about before we move on?
I just have one, and it's the intermediate stage I was talking about.
Go ahead, Nate.
I was so proud and accomplished when I first installed Gentoo. Because back then the documentation was just almost non-existent, and I'm so happy when I finally got it installed just to realize that all my flags were wrong. Yeah.
I have my own stories about that. I think if you use Linux long enough, I think everyone has their own experiences with Gentoo. Like mine was, I think mine are different because of the famous personality that I have, that I did it live on stream, and like 9 people helped me, and because there's 12 different ways of installing Gentoo, you just end up with a broken system at the end. But I think everyone along the lines, if you install Gentoo, you have kind of that experience where you're like, I just did this one thing wrong in step 4 that it didn't work.
Yep. The hardest thing to me is learning when to just say, yeah, that's not you. This isn't for you. Throw it away. Accept enough is enough at some point. That's the hardest thing for me, is to just like throw in the towel and go, yeah, this isn't working. And I have wasted like a shit ton of time on something that I had no business even attempting.
Drew, have you ever installed Gentoo? I'm just curious.
No. I mean, to the point, guys, I don't steer. I don't steer away. I don't like install stuff.
Yeah, your lack of distro hopping offends me. I'm just saying.
There's got to be a reason. Like, I'm going to set up a computer for my wife. Does Debian the real right thing? Yeah, if I set it up, I guess it is. But maybe if I'm trying to do something really fast, I might do Fedora or Ubuntu or something else, or Pop for that matter,
But you know what, though? To Drew's credit, because he doesn't distro hop and he is pretty much set in stone with Debian, like, he does some amazing scripts I've never seen anybody else do.
I appreciate that.
On the other hand, I do a lot of stuff with hardware, and it's just because I'm constantly switching all the time, and I can't make up my mind. So
there is something to be...
Hold up.
We're trying to tell what we got here.
I I seriously got a problem, okay? Okay?
Oh, that's good. For the audio listeners, he just pulled out a stack of hardware. He's got a little bit of issue. You have toned down the monitors, at least in the background. How many monitors do you have in front of you now?
I actually only have 2 right now.
Wow. Yeah.
Drew,
I don't
we
know
have
that
to-
I admit that, Nate.
Yeah. We're
That's
gonna
just
have to-
not Nate. Who's pod guy? What pod guy is this? You know?
Yeah, you're closer, Drew. So you're gonna have to drive over to Oklahoma to figure out make sure he's
know.
okay.
Is that accurate? I don't know.
I'm getting older, guys.
Yeah.
And I realized that
yeah.
I can't hold on to everything, and I'm looking for that ultra wide OLED is really what I'm looking for.
Nothing wrong with that, baby. Nothing wrong with that.
All right. So I think that's where we'll stop the main topic. We probably could have rambled on. I know that there were some tangents in there, but it was fun. So let's go ahead and move on to the nuggies of the week. And I still need my soundboard, but I don't have one, so it's just the way it's gonna have to be.
You know, you have a Steam Deck. I just realized that you can put a audio loop and just hit the button.
Reverb.
Dude, you know what? That's actually when I heard you say that, I was like, man, my Steam Deck hasn't been charged in ages. That's stupid. I got it eventually, but I was like, why is he talking about my Steam Deck? Like, man, that thing's in the case. It wouldn't power on if it was the apocalypse. You know. Yeah, I probably could do that. But will I do it? Probably not. And if I did do it, it would be overly complicated and probably prone to breaking. All right. Anyways, the nuggies of the week. This is the section where we can talk about basically whatever we want, things that we've discovered, things we've created, things that we want to share, basically whatever it is. So, Nate, your nuggie of the week.
So I'm going to go completely away from normal hardware, completely away from really tech, and well, no, technically it is tech. What I'm actually going to talk about is Distro ceiling fan. And the reason why that I want to talk about this is because this ceiling fan we actually put in our living room, and it comes with a remote that actually has professional settings for your light. Like there's different light levels, there's different temperatures that you can set. And I'm planning on getting one right above me in my office to put more light down on my desk. And from there, it's almost flush mount to the ceiling. It's very bright. It gets really, really bright. And on top of that, the fan speed is silent, but boy, it can push some wind. And when you're a fat man like me that sweats, it's one of the best things ever. It's definitely a setup need in your office.
Nice. Drew, your nuggie of the week.
My nuggie of the week is Fordio. And one of the things that and granted, I have talked about Codeberg way too much probably on this podcast. The truth of the matter is, if you have any desire to host your own SourceForge, Fordio is really stinking good. It's better than I think Gati in a number of ways. And there's some really interesting things that's happening with that project. Fordio is implementing ActivityPub protocol, which is the same protocol that Mastodon uses. And so it has instances to federate with each other. That's something that is not available yet, but that is something that is being coded and worked on. So they'll be able to talk together, all these so if you are going to be self-hosting, I think that would be something that you could that you could use with Codeberg as well. So they would all be kind of hey, I want to star that, or I want to clone or fork that. You could do that even on a self-hosted Fordio. Anyway, so that's the short version of my nuggie of the week.
Just kind of back that up. It's really good. And it was actually fairly easy to set up after you get past the stupid SSH stuff. The SSH was by far the hardest part. Okay, so mine original one was NixOS, but that just was a filler, I'll call it that. So a few weeks ago, I used a nuggie for an application. I think it was called Libation. I may be wrong about that, but basically the idea was you could hook up to your Audible account and download DRM-free all of the audiobooks that you've ever bought from Audible. Now, if you want to play those things, you need something to play them. Now, you could use MPV or VLC or something like that, or you could use something that was dedicated for audiobooks. Now, Audio Bookshelf is that thing. It's hosted in a Docker container. Its UI is good and simple, but it just does the job really, really well. And it, by far, of anything that I've ever tried when it comes to books, music, TV shows, whatever, pulls metadata down better than anything I've ever discovered in my entire life. It is so astonishingly good. I don't know how it does the magic that it does, but it pulls the metadata in. It just gets the covers, the tags, everything that you need. It's fantastic. Now, just kind of on the side of that, if you want to be able to use it on your Android phone, there is a application called, oops, wrong one. Sorry, I should have had this part. It's called Listen, Listen. It is an Audio Bookshelf client for Android. It's on F-Droid and all those places, as well as the Play Store. And it is amazing. Like, it's very simple in terms of UI, but it synchronizes with your Audio Bookshelf thing, your Audio Bookshelf server, and you just listen to your audiobooks. It's very, 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 very good. So if that's something that you're into in terms of listening to your audiobooks, highly recommend. And it was it was stupid simple to set up. I just changed the port because I have a whole bunch of stuff. But other than that, it was just easy. So very, very good. So that's my nugget of the week. So that is the Linux Cast. Went to over an hour, actually. That went fast. So if you want to get in contact with us, the easiest way is via email. Email@linuxcast.org is the email address. You can email us there, and if you want to contact the boys, and I can always forward it on to them, or just ask the question, I'll answer it. You can find all of our contact information on the website, which is thelinuxcast.org. There you'll find previous episodes all the way back to season 1, along with blog posts that I release semi-frequently. It's not frequent at all. When I feel like it, there's new blog posts up there, but mostly it's just for the previous episodes. You can also find all of our contact information on the contact page, which is linuxcast.org/contact. You can find the fellas here. Drew is Just a Guy Linux on YouTube. He does videos on Debian, of course, and scripting and window managers and all sorts of stuff. Lately, he's been doing the live stream stuff because he's, trying to be with the kids. Also, it's just easier, right?
So much easier.
Right? I'm just going to stream for a little while. I don't have to come up with a script. Anyway, and Nate here is Nate Picks Tech World on YouTube. He does hardware-related stuff mostly, but also delves into some of the software that makes your hardware work good. So make sure you check out both of the boys here on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already. Matter of fact, just stop here now and go, subscribe to those guys. We're good. All right. That is it for this one. Of course, I am the Linux Cast. You can subscribe, thumbs up, and all that stuff here. And if you are interested in joining us live, I should just point that out. We do record this live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And it's awesome. You can participate in the chat. It's really, really good. They have a good time. Usually they're talking about things that have nothing to do with what we're talking about, which is fine. But they have the attention span of a Cocker Spaniel. It's just the way that it is. Yeah, exactly. Today, I'm not actually sure what they were talking about. It was something different. But anyways, if you can't catch us live on Tuesdays, we do record, or we do edit the podcast and post it on Saturday evenings. That's edited by Mr. Nate. Thank you so very much, Mr. Nate. We post that in the evenings on YouTube and on any podcatcher that you can imagine. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you would leave us a review, we'd be really appreciative of that. And I think that's it. So we have made it an hour and 21 minutes in the streaming thing, and we lost 0 frames. 0. So we're back.
Better than last week.
Nate, Drew, anything would have been better than last week.
Fair.
It was bad. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next time.
Man.